The wind howled across the border outpost, shaking the metal panels of the human research station. Leo tightened his jacket and adjusted the strap of his toolkit. Even after months of working at the outpost, he had never grown used to the sudden, fierce storms that swept across the barren planet. The storm was fast approaching. Darker and stronger than anything forecasted. Leo was about to close the workshop door when a flash of movement caught his eye. At first, he thought it was debris from the storm, but then he saw a figure struggling through the gale. It was an alien, slender, tall, with smooth silver-blue skin that shimmered even under the gray sky. Her movements were precise, almost graceful, but the wind bent her form and slowed her down. "Hey, over here?" Leo shouted, running toward her. He grabbed her arm just as the wind nearly knocked her off her feet. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. And for a moment Leo saw confusion and something else, a kind of quiet urgency. She spoke, but the words were alien, musical, and strange. Leo couldn't understand them, but he noticed her gesture toward the storm, then at herself. She was clearly in need of warmth. Leo quickly unfastened his own jacket and threw it around her shoulders. "Here, take this," he said. The fabric was thick, warm, and smelled faintly of his own perfume, a comforting scent he hadn't realized could be so important. She blinked at him. Then, in a gesture that seemed almost shy, bowed her head slightly. Leo didn't understand the nuances of her culture, but he had a sense that this small act carried meaning. Perhaps it was gratitude, or maybe something deeper, a form of respect he didn't fully comprehend. "Follow me," he shouted over the wind. They ran toward the station together, the alien's long limbs keeping pace with ease despite the storm. Once inside, Leo closed the door behind them, shaking off the cold. He realized she was drenched and shivering, her body trembling not from fear but from the cold. Sit," he stammered, pointing to a small bench. She complied, folding herself neatly onto the narrow surface, the jacket wrapped tightly around her. She looked almost delicate, but there was an undeniable strength in the way she held herself. Leo grabbed a towel and gently helped dry her hair. The storm outside roared, but inside the workshop, there was a calmness that contrasted with the chaos beyond the walls. "What's your name?" Leo asked, trying to make conversation. The alien tilted her head and spoke again, but again the words were unfamiliar. Leo smiled awkwardly and shrugged. "Right. I don't understand a word, but you're safe here." She stared at him, eyes wide, and then slowly, very deliberately, she extended her hands in a gesture that seemed ceremonial. Leo frowned, unsure what she wanted, but then she nodded toward the jacket. "The jacket," he said, laughing nervously. "Keep it, it's warm. You can return it later." Her expression stiffened, almost imperceptibly. She shook her head slowly and pointed to the jacket again. Leo sensed that to her. This jacket was more than just fabric. It had significance. Perhaps in her culture, borrowing a gift required formal repayment. He tried to reassure her. "It's okay, really. You don't have to give it back. Just stay warm." She stared at him for a long moment, then slowly lowered her hands and nodded. Though the look in her eyes told Leo she would not rest until she had followed her own customs, the storm passed by morning, leaving a gray calm over the station. Leo was cleaning his tools when he heard a loud knock on the door. It was a harsh, insistent sound, unlike anything the station's usual machinery made. He wiped his hands on a rag and hurried to the door. When he opened it, he froze. There stood the alien, wearing his jacket and nothing else. Leo's first reaction was disbelief, then panic, then a frantic attempt to avert his eyes without offending her. Hi," he stammered. "Morning, good. Morning." She stood perfectly still, holding the jacket out in front of her. Her expression was serious, almost stern, as if presenting something sacred. You returned it?" Leo asked, pointing at the jacket. She tilted her head. "Yes," she replied in her own language. Then, realizing he didn't understand, she mimed putting something on, then took the jacket and extended it toward him. Her gesture was unmistakable. The jacket must be returned. Leo blinked. His mind raced. This is not what humans do. Why is she doing this? Wait. You can't just… there are rules, he stammered. But she didn't understand him. He realized she had no idea his concept of modesty even existed. Leo quickly grabbed a spare blanket from the corner. Here, cover yourself, he said, holding it out. She looked at the blanket with confusion. To her, a human covering gesture probably seemed odd, unnecessary, even improper. He stepped back, trying to explain, though he had no idea if it would help. On our planet, people wear clothes all the time. Not like your custom. Here, you need this. She finally understood partially, taking the blanket and wrapping it loosely around herself. Her eyes scanned him as if analyzing his reaction. Leo felt both relieved and embarrassed. He was glad she understood, but he also knew the situation could quickly escalate into something diplomatic or comedic. The rest of the morning was a blur. Leo attempted to make breakfast while keeping an eye on her, who seemed calm but intensely observant. Every move he made was watched, every gesture noted. She occasionally mimicked his movements with her own subtle alien precision. Do you eat this? Leo asked, holding a spoonful of oatmeal. She tilted her head and mimicked eating. Leo laughed nervously, taking it as a positive sign. By afternoon, the station was filled with curious onlookers. Other humans and a few aliens working in the outpost had caught wind of the situation. Some whispered, others laughed quietly. But all eyes were on Leo and the silver-blue figure wrapped in his jacket. Leo realized he needed to explain not just to the station crew, but to the alien herself, the difference between human and alien customs. He found a holopad and drew diagrams, using simple stick figures and arrows. The alien watched intently, her head tilted, eyes tracking every movement. Leo tried to mimic her gestures, and tried to demonstrate human etiquette with exaggerated hand motions and facial expressions. After hours of patient work, she nodded. Finally, a small smile appeared on her face, a rare, fleeting gesture from her stoic demeanor. Leo felt a wave of relief. Communication, even imperfect, was happening. As evening approached, Leo handed her a clean, human-style outfit he had stored for visiting dignitaries, a simple jumpsuit. Here, he said, this is clothes, comfortable, covers you, warm. She examined it, then looked at him. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped out of the jacket and into the jumpsuit. The transformation was seamless and elegant, and Leo couldn't help but admire how alien her movements were. Better? He asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded, then, in a gesture that surprised him, bowed slightly. It was not just gratitude, it was respect, perhaps even admiration. Leo realized she had learned something about humans that day, and he had learned something about her. They sat together quietly as the storm outside faded completely, leaving a soft, glowing sunset that reflected off the metal station walls. For the first time since the chaos began, Leo felt a sense of calm and a sense of anticipation. He didn't yet understand all the customs of her people. He didn't yet understand why returning a jacket could be so serious, but he understood one thing clearly. This alien, strange and distant though she might be, had formed a connection with him. And that connection was only just beginning. The next morning, Leo arrived at the station's common area, expecting the usual quiet hum of machines and crew chatter. Instead, he found the room buzzing with whispers and curious glances. A few human technicians peeked from behind consoles. Several alien delegates had arrived unexpectedly, murmuring among themselves in their melodic, unfamiliar languages. Leo froze. Something was clearly wrong. Before he could ask, a loud knock echoed through the room, heavier, sharper than yesterday's. The door swung open, and there stood Riala, the silver-blue alien he had helped during the storm. She wore the jumpsuit Leo had lent her, but her posture was stiff, formal, and commanding. Leo's stomach sank. Morning again, he said weakly. Riala didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stepped forward and raised her hands in a gesture Leo hadn't seen before. She held the jumpsuit's returned jacket carefully in front of her. Your jacket. I return it, she said in her melodic tongue. When she realized Leo didn't understand, she mimed the action again, demonstrating the return as if it were a sacred ritual. Leo's eyes widened. Wait. You already returned it yesterday. She shook her head slowly. To her, the first attempt had been incomplete. The ceremonial part of the repayment had not been fully observed. Leo realized then that in her culture, returning a gift was not just about giving it back. It was a formal, precise act, almost like a treaty. Before he could think of a solution, the station alarm sounded. Other aliens in the outpost immediately assumed something significant was happening. Whispers of official alliance, marriage proposal, and diplomatic gestures spread quickly. The station crew exchanged nervous glances. Leo could feel the tension rising. Riala. This isn't what humans do, Leo said, holding his hands up. Returning a jacket doesn't. It's just a jacket, not a treaty, not marriage, nothing. Riala tilted her head. She studied him carefully. In her species, humans were notoriously unpredictable, and she had to be precise. She mimicked his gestures and shook her head, clearly convinced she was following the correct procedure. Leo sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Okay. Maybe we need diagrams. He pulled a holopad from his bag and started sketching. Stick figures with arrows showed a human handing over an item, another figure receiving it, and nothing else. He labeled it clearly. Human gift exchange. Casual. No obligations. Riala leaned over the holopad, her sharp eyes following each arrow. She nodded once, as if filing the new data into her mental database. But she still looked unconvinced. Leo realized that even with diagrams bridging, cultural differences was going to take more than just pictures. By late morning, the situation had attracted attention from neighboring alien outposts. Delegates from 3 other planets arrived unexpectedly, each curious about the human-alien jacket ritual.
Ow.
They spoke among themselves, gesturing and discussing in rapid melodic tones. Leo's translation device beeped constantly. Struggling to keep up, one of the alien delegates, a tall figure with amber skin and elongated fingers, stepped forward and asked Leo a question he didn't understand. He held up his hand and mimicked returning a jacket. Leo froze. No. Not like that, he said, shaking his head. It's casual. Just a gift. The delegate tilted their head, frowning. Casual, you mean? You accept this human's item. Without obligation? Yes, exactly. Leo said, nodding frantically. No obligation? Riala, still standing near him, gave a small nod, then added her own voice to the translation. Human jacket. Casual. No binding ritual. No treaty. No. Anything serious? The crowd seemed confused. In their cultures, accepting a gift without formal repayment was nearly unheard of. Many delegates whispered to one another, exchanging skeptical glances. Leo noticed one of them scribbling notes furiously, perhaps preparing to report this anomaly to their homeworld in an attempt to clarify further. Leo decided to demonstrate a normal human interaction in real time. He picked up a spare tool, handed it to Riala, and mimed a casual, friendly gesture. See? Simple exchange? No rules broken, just friendship. Riala took the tool, mimicked the gesture, and returned it. To Leo's relief, she smiled slightly, a small victory in the ongoing cultural negotiation, but the relief was short-lived. One of the younger alien delegates, curious and adventurous, decided to test Leo's explanation. He picked up a small jacket from the corner, mimed putting it on, and extended it toward another human crew member. Chaos erupted. Humans gasped. The aliens cheered. Someone accidentally knocked over a tray of equipment. Leo ran over, hands flailing, trying to prevent disaster.
Oh, no.
Not like that. Stop. Riala stepped forward and raised her hands. Her voice, sharp and commanding, rang clearly across the room. Enough. Observe protocol. Humans are not rigid. Gifts are casual. Understand. Her authority silenced the room immediately. Delegates froze, some whispering among themselves, others staring at her with awe. Leo felt a mixture of relief and embarrassment. Her intervention had saved him, but now it was clear. She had become the center of attention herself. After the initial chaos, Leo and Riala decided they needed a longer, more structured explanation to prevent further misunderstandings. They arranged a cultural conference inside the station. A large holoscreen displayed their prepared notes, diagrams, and translations. The audience was a mix of humans, aliens, and curious diplomats from nearby stations. Leo stepped to the front nervously, and Riala followed, standing tall and composed beside him. "Good. Morning," Leo began, waving awkwardly. "We are here to explain human gift exchange. Specifically, jackets." A ripple of amusement passed through the audience. Riala, unmoved, raised her hand and continued the introduction in her own language. Her translation device rendered it in multiple alien dialects. Humans are unpredictable. Gifts are casual. Returning a gift does not imply commitment, binding, or ritual. Several delegates whispered to one another. A few wrote notes furiously. One even took a small human-style notebook and began sketching diagrams. Based on Leo and Riala's demonstration, Leo took a deep breath and held up a spare jacket. "See this? If I give it to someone, it's because they are cold. That's all. No treaty. No marriage. Just warmth. Friendship." He handed it to Riala, who mimicked putting it on. She turned, bowed slightly, a gesture meant to respect him and show understanding, not to signal a treaty. The audience observed silently, some nodding, others blinking in confusion. Leo tried to make a joke. "And if they give it back? That's okay too. Not a big deal. Really." Some aliens laughed nervously. Others exchanged confused glances. Leo realized that humor didn't always translate across species. Riala then stepped forward to clarify further. She gestured deliberately, mimicking a ceremonial action, and then shrugged slightly. Her expression said, "This is how humans do it. Observe, learn, and adapt." The room erupted in applause. Even the skeptical delegates seemed impressed by her clear, confident explanation. Leo felt a wave of relief. He was finally starting to bridge the gap between human and alien cultures. After the conference, the station's common area quieted down. Leo and Riala sat together reviewing the day's events. "Honestly," Leo said, letting out a deep sigh, "I thought this was just a jacket. I didn't expect all this." Riala tilted her head. Her voice was soft, almost thoughtful, as she said something in her own language. Leo listened, then smiled. "Yeah, I think I understand. You take customs very seriously. Probably underestimated that." They laughed lightly, the tension of the day easing. For the first time, Leo realized that while their cultures were different, their intentions were similar. Both wanted respect, trust, and understanding. As night fell, the station glowed under a calm sky. The storm from the previous day had left a faint mist over the barren landscape, making the metal structures shine. Leo and Riala walked outside briefly, just enough to breathe in the crisp air. "Tomorrow," Leo said, "we'll probably have more visitors. More questions. But at least now, we have a plan." Riala nodded. Her eyes, reflecting the stars above, showed something he hadn't seen before. Anticipation. She was curious about humans now, about Leo, and about how far these new connections could go. Leo looked at her and thought, "I might not fully understand her culture yet, but I want to, and I think she wants to understand mine too." In that quiet moment, the boundaries between worlds felt smaller. Differences existed, certainly, but so did trust, and for both of them, that trust was more valuable than any ceremonial jacket. Treaty or ritual. They returned inside, ready for whatever surprises tomorrow would bring. Little did they know, the next day would bring even more unexpected visitors and a new set of challenges that would test their patience. Creativity and ability to explain human customs in the most unusual ways. The next morning, Leo arrived at the station earlier than usual. He had barely had time to drink his coffee when a loud hum filled the common area. Several alien delegates had already gathered, including some new faces he didn't recognize. Their expressions were curious, serious, and a little impatient. "Great," Leo muttered to himself. "Looks like the jacket thing. It's still a problem." Riala entered behind him, calm and composed as always. She wore her jumpsuit neatly, the jacket safely folded over her arm. To anyone watching, she looked entirely professional. To Leo, she looked like a walking explanation of alien diplomacy. As Leo prepared to address the gathering, a small delegation from the neighboring star system approached him. They spoke in rapid tones, their translator devices struggling to keep up. All he could catch were fragments. Ritual, gift, alliance. Leo rubbed his forehead. He sighed. "Okay, plan B," he muttered. "Time for a full demonstration." The room was cleared, and a large holoscreen was activated. Diagrams, timelines, and stick figure illustrations filled the display. Leo held a spare jacket in one hand, ready to demonstrate. Riala stood beside him, poised and alert, ready to intervene if anyone misunderstood again. "Welcome, everyone," Leo began nervously. "Today we explain human gift exchange, especially jackets. This is very important." A ripple of amusement went through the audience. Some aliens tilted their heads, whispering to each other. Leo tried to ignore it. Riala stepped forward. Using her clear, melodic voice translated for everyone, she said, "Humans are unpredictable. Gifts are casual. Returning a gift does not imply commitment, marriage, or alliance." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Leo and Riala. Some delegates scribbled notes, while others simply blinked in disbelief. Leo took a deep breath. "Let me show you. If I give this jacket to Riala," he handed it to her, careful to keep everything professional. "It is because she is cold. That is all. No treaties. No obligations. Just warmth. Friendship." Riala accepted the jacket gracefully, mimicked putting it on, then turned and bowed lightly. The audience watched, fascinated by the precision of her gestures and the clarity of the demonstration. "Now," Leo continued, "if she gives it back, that is also fine. Nothing serious. Nothing formal. Just the human way," several alien delegates murmured. Some nodded slowly. A few whispered excitedly to each other. Clearly, the concept was unusual for their cultures. But they were beginning to understand. After the initial demonstration, a bold young delegate stepped forward. He picked up a jacket from the corner, mimicked putting it on, and extended it to another delegate. Leo's heart raced. "No, stop," he shouted. Chaos erupted as the other delegates gasped and whispered rapidly among themselves. Riala immediately intervened. She raised her hands, her posture commanding, and spoke firmly. "Observe protocol. Humans are casual. Gifts are friendly. No treaty required." The room fell silent again. Leo exhaled in relief. Her presence and clarity had prevented another diplomatic mishap. He glanced at her and gave a small, grateful nod. After a moment, the tension eased. Some delegates laughed quietly, understanding the humor in the situation. Others took meticulous notes, clearly fascinated by the human approach to gift-giving. Leo decided it was time to explain further. He pulled up another set of diagrams on the holoscreen. This time, he illustrated various scenarios: giving a gift, receiving a gift, returning a gift, and casual exchanges. He even included some humorous examples, showing stick figures tripping over jackets or handing them to the wrong person. Riala joined in, demonstrating each scenario with exact movements. She exaggerated slightly to make the gestures clear, and the audience laughed at her mimicry. Even the sternest delegate seemed amused. Leo realized then that humor, when combined with precision, was a universal bridge. People and aliens alike could understand the point when presented with clarity and a little entertainment. By mid-afternoon, the room was filled with laughter, notes, and questions. Delegates were raising hands to ask questions. What if the gift is food? What if a human gives something accidentally? Is there a special ceremony for returning a gift? Leo and Riala answered carefully. Each answer was simple, clear, and adapted for alien understanding. They emphasized one main point repeatedly. Human gifts are casual, and intentions matter more than rituals. As the session ended, Leo noticed a few delegates lingering, clearly hesitant to leave. One stepped forward cautiously, holding a small pair of boots. He looked at Leo, then at Riala, and asked in a polite tone, "Am I now obligated, do I follow protocol?" Leo blinked. He wasn't sure if this was serious or a playful test. He looked at Riala for guidance. Riala smiled lightly and spoke firmly. Until formal rules are established, observe humans carefully. Gifts are casual. Boots are boots. Jackets are jackets. Friendship is most important. The delegate hesitated, then laughed softly, bowing. The tension dissolved instantly. Leo realized that Riala had become the official interpreter of human intentions, a role she seemed proud to accept. Later, in the quiet of the station, Leo and Riala sat together, reviewing the day's events. "Wow," Leo said, shaking his head. "I didn't think a jacket could cause so much chaos." Riala tilted her head. Her eyes sparkled in the dim light of the station. She spoke softly in her own language, and Leo's translator device rendered it, "Your people are interesting, confusing, yet clear." "I have learned much," Leo smiled. "I've learned a lot too. About your people. About patience, and about how much a simple gesture can mean in another culture." Riala nodded. Tomorrow, the delegates return to their worlds. But they will remember. They will understand humans better. Leo realized that their partnership, human and alien, engineer and diplomat, had created something unique. They had bridged the gap between two very different worlds with nothing more than patience, clarity, and cooperation. The next morning, the station was quiet again. Most delegates had left, returning to their home planets with notes, sketches, and new understanding. Leo and Riala took a walk outside, enjoying the calm after the storm of diplomacy. The sun rose slowly over the barren landscape, casting long shadows across the metal outpost. Leo took a deep breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "You know," he said, "I think we did it. We really explained human gift culture." Riala smiled faintly. "Yes, and more importantly, we showed that communication is not just words. It is actions, clarity, and understanding." Leo nodded. "Exactly. And I think we made some friends too." They walked together in silence for a moment, the wind gently rustling the edges of the station's metallic structures. The storm from the previous days was completely gone, leaving a calm, peaceful landscape, a fitting reflection of the diplomacy they had achieved. As they returned inside, Leo glanced at Riala. "You know, next time, maybe we start with something simpler than jackets." Riala laughed softly, a melodic sound that echoed lightly in the hall. "Perhaps. But then, no lesson is ever forgotten." Leo smiled. "True. Lesson learned. And maybe I've learned more about your culture than I thought I would." Riala looked at him, her silver blue eyes reflecting the station lights. "And I have learned much about humans. About trust, patience, and friendship." For the first time, Leo realized something important. Even across the vast differences of species, the same principles applied. Understanding, kindness, and patience were universal. A simple jacket, once a source of confusion, had become a bridge between worlds. As the sun set over the outpost, casting soft orange and pink hues across the metallic walls, Leo felt a profound sense of hope. He had not only helped Riala survive a storm, he had helped both humans and aliens understand each other a little better. And in the vastness of space, that was no small accomplishment. The station was quiet, the night calm. Leo looked at Riala and smiled. Together, they had turned a small misunderstanding into a story of friendship, learning, and cooperation. And in the vast universe, that was a story worth telling.